Welcome back. Hope you all had a good April. I actually have some news this month. Your boy's on Rotten Tomatoes. I've been doing a lot more review assignments lately of TV shows and movies, and those reviews have started popping up on Rotten Tomatoes. So when there's a percentage, there's an aggregate of something, of a score, I'm part of the aggregate, I'm part of the percentage. You know, if something has 100% positive reviews, and I give it a 1-star review and say it's awful, that's going to go down to 99%. So all those people who complain when a film comes out that they like and it got a low Rotten Tomatoes score, or vice versa, they don't like it and it has a high Rotten Tomatoes score, and they say critics don't know what the fuck they're talking about, Rotten Tomatoes don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They're talking about me. I'm one of the guys. I'm in the club. So yeah, that's very exciting. I watched a lot of great stuff this month. There was a lot of TV, a lot of good TV on this month. So let's dive on in. The Wire. Finished my rewatch of The Wire. And I'm considering making a video about The Wire, because there's so much to dissect and so much to analyze and so much to praise, because it's such an incredible show where it's so intensely realistic and naturalistic and accurate that it could be a documentary. And I loved watching the back end of it, because I think as much of a masterpiece as season 1 is, and that could have been a standalone perfect mini-series on its own if there was never a season 2 or 3. I thought it was really interesting that David Simon would reinvent the show every season and focus on a different area of Baltimore, a different part of what makes up the city, and how the institutional problems are the way they are and how they came to be and why they're not going away anytime soon. And obviously the first season is the drug trade and the police, but then the second season is the docks and the working class and what happened to the working man. And the same characters from season 1 come back, but now there's a whole new cast of characters, and then season 3 goes into politics, and there's a whole new cast of characters. And I think my favorite was season 4, where it goes into the schools, because first of all, that just takes those problems right to their root. Like, how does a kid who's still figuring out what they want to do and hasn't even really started their life yet get mixed up into the drug trade or a life of crime, and then their whole journey is decided. But it's framed through this beautiful kind of stand and deliver storyline with Presbo, who's now a disgraced cop, becoming a teacher in this inner city school, and how at first, like, the kids have absolutely no respect for him, and by the end of it, he's a great teacher and they love him, and they've kind of built like a relationship, and he's kind of mentored some of these kids, and especially the relationship with him and Duquan, who, that's such a tragic storyline with where he ends up in the finale, which I don't want to spoil in case anyone hasn't seen it. But and then season 5 gets a lot of flack for being, the rest of the show is so realistic it could be a documentary, and then season 5 has this kind of sensationalist, plotty kind of thing of McNulty and Lester make up a fake serial killer to get more funding into the homicide department. And that's more the kind of thing you'd see in Law and Order. That's not really, like, The Wire went against that kind of sensationalist drama. But having said that, I enjoyed the storyline. It's very thrilling. I loved how it goes into the media and the press and their role in all these institutional problems, and it's funny we've been following this homicide squad for years now, and it's funny to see McNulty and Lester think it's a good idea to start faking murders, and Bunk and Kima think it's a horrible idea, and it kind of creates a rift there, and some really darkly funny stuff in that season. But yeah, it was great to revisit The Wire, because when I first watched it when I was a teenager, I loved it and I loved the characters, but there was a lot of stuff I didn't understand. I couldn't follow because I was young and idiotic. Now I'm old and idiotic, and I could understand the plot a lot better than I did then. Novocaine. Went to watch this with my sister, the movie where Jack Quaid can't feel pain and becomes an action hero, and I really enjoyed it. It's really fun. The violence is really gnarly and gory and great, and I loved him in it. I loved Jack Quaid in it. He was great, and Amber Midthunder was fantastic in it, and Jacob Batalon, and it's a really fun premise for an action comedy, and they have a lot of fun with it. But the only thing is, this is kind of spoiler territory, but it gets towards the end, it gets to the point where it seems like the bad guy can't feel pain. The bad guy is like shot and burned, and he's in a car crash, and he keeps getting back up and being fine. He's not in pain at all, and it's like, well, if the whole conceit is that Jack Quaid can't feel pain, and that's his superpower, if we're going to be in this far-fetched action movie reality where no one feels pain, people walk away unscathed from car crashes, what is the point of not being able to feel pain? No one can feel pain in this universe. But that's really only the last 20 minutes or so. Up until then, it's a really great action film, and there's a really great twist in it kind of halfway through that I'm, as much as the trailers kind of gave away every little scrap of action in the film, but it didn't give away the twist, which I thought was, in this age where everything's given away in the trailers, it was nice to get a surprise, go into a new film and be surprised by something that fucking happens. But yeah, Novocaine, a lot of fun, just gets a little far-fetched towards the end. Village of the Damned. There's the old black and white horror movie from the 60s, which there's that Simpsons episode where there's a parody of it, and I've always wondered, like, what's that a parody of? I've never seen it, and so I looked it up and bought it on DVD and watched it, and I honestly think the Simpsons version is creepier. This was really creepy too, and it's really scary, and I loved it. But the Simpsons parody of it somehow was even scarier. But it's great. There's something about, I think this might have been the first, or one of the first, to use the trope of, like, scary kids. There's something about a possessed child, or a child with a supernatural ability, that is just even creepier than an adult. And, you know, the little glint in their eyes, which for the time, that's a really impressive effect that they were able to pull off. And such a small thing, but such an effective thing. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Frankenhooker. This is an insane movie, but it was a lot of fun. It's this guy whose fiance is killed, and then he goes out and rebuilds her body by grafting together parts of sex workers he's killed, and it brings her back to life, but she comes back to life with partly her own memories and her own personality, and partly those of all the sex workers, so she goes off into the night and he has to find her, and it's really insane. It was like kind of like in the same vein as like The Toxic Avenger, or Maniac Cop or something, where it's just so ridiculously over the top. You know, it's not trying to convince you that these characters are real people. It's not trying to ground it in any way. It's just got a ridiculous premise and wants to have fun with it. I mean, the only thing really is that the main guy is so creepy and so unlikable, and his fiance who died is so sweet and so lovely. That you're like, how did she even end up engaged to this guy? But, you know, like I say, this isn't the kind of film to apply logic. Django, the original Corbucci film. Because I was doing my video about spaghetti westerns, which I was really pleased with how it turned out. It's one of my personal favorites of the videos I've done. And Django's a big part of it. Last month I watched Fistful of Dollars, and they kind of both were the formative, seminal spaghetti westerns that kind of like, they weren't the very first, but they established spaghetti westerns as a subgenre of their own. It's not just Italian filmmakers trying to make American westerns. They're putting their own stamp on the western. And if you want my full review of it, you know, it's in that video, but I love Django. I have in my house I have a coaster with the Django poster on it. And Franco Nero is such a great lead, and Corbucci is so uncompromising with the violence and with the, you know, politicizing it, and the ending, the climactic showdown, might be my favorite climactic gunfight of any western I've ever seen. The Studio. I've been loving The Studio. I said this last month as well, that it's one of my favorite TV shows I've seen in a long time. I think it might be the best acting work Seth Rogen's ever done, the best character work, and it's such a spot-on satire of the modern film industry and the studio system, and, you know, but I've been reviewing every episode week to week, so if you want my full thoughts, you can find them there. In fact, I've noticed that my reviews are getting quoted on the Wikipedia page of each episode, which has been very gratifying to see. Also probably means there aren't a ton of people reviewing each episode, so they have to really scrape the bottom of the barrel to pad out the critical reception section in the Wikipedia pages. But I'm loving The Studio so much, I'm thinking after it's over, after I've done these reviews week to week, I'll do a video, kind of a review of the whole season, so keep your eyes peeled. A Minecraft movie. I quite enjoyed this. I wasn't even going to watch it, and then I kind of thought, you know, there was like a special sneak preview screening at my cinema the day before it came out, and I thought it'll get a lot of clicks if I go and watch it the night before, and then I do my review and put it on the channel. It'll get some views, and it did, you know, so thank you all for that, for watching it. But, you know, I only watched it because I was like, well, I'll do a video about it, but I actually ended up really enjoying it. I enjoyed it so much more than I thought I would. And I've never played Minecraft, so I didn't get any of the Easter eggs. I just really enjoyed Jack Black's performance and Jason Momoa's performance. They're both having so much fun, and their fun is contagious, and it's a really funny movie. I mean, really silly, but so much fun. And I felt lucky that I went the night before it came out, because I went before all the memes all came out, and all the, you know, before the insane Gen Alpha audiences got their marching orders to throw popcorn and cause a scene and have police called when the chicken jockey shows up. So the Minecraft fans in my audience were all applauding a lot, but none of them were hooting and hollering and throwing shit, ruining the cinema employees' day. So I feel very blessed I slipped under the radar there. I don't have to deal with any of the rowdiness. Come out and play. This, I really enjoyed this. It's like a tiny little low-budget horror film with Eben Moss Backrack from The Bear, Cousin Richie from The Bear, and The Thing from the upcoming Fantastic Four film. And I bought this on DVD a while ago, purely because he was in it. This was like his first lead role, because he never even wanted to be a famous actor. He was happy to just be that guy, you know, to just be a working, jobbing actor who made a living but wasn't a huge star. Now, of course, because The Bear is huge and he's about to be in the MCU, he is a huge star. But this was his first lead role in something, and I really enjoyed it. Him and his wife are on holiday in, like, I think Mexico or something. They get a boat out to this little island, and the streets are empty, and the only people they see are kids. And it becomes clear that there's like a Children of the Corn thing going on, where the island's kids have risen up and murdered all the adults. And I loved it. Actually, I liked it more than Children of the Corn. Children of the Corn I thought was kind of boring, considering how great the premise is. You know, this movie is every bit as fucked up and violent and bloody. You know, the kids are savages and terrifying. Everything you want Children of the Corn to be, come out and play, is that. And it has a great ending. I won't spoil what it is, but it's one of those great horror film endings where, you know, there's this really harrowing twist. It was terrific. I loved it. Death of a Unicorn. This came out in the UK on the same weekend as Minecraft, and I went and watched them both to review them both. And beforehand, I was like, I'll go and watch Minecraft just to make a video about it, but I don't really want to watch it. And Death of a Unicorn, I really do want to watch. I really like the look of it. I like the trailer. And then afterwards, the opposite was true. I'd enjoyed Minecraft, and I hadn't really enjoyed Death of a Unicorn. You know, it's got some laughs. Obviously, Paul Rudd's hilarious, and Will Poulter is the standout. He was hilarious in it. But for something with a premise that is this crazy, it's so tame. It's so boring, and, you know, it sets itself up as this kind of eat the rich satire, but it has absolutely nothing to say on that front. It's just all the characters are terrible people, whether they're rich or poor, whether they're the servant class or the ruling class. So it's basically just a lesser version of Jurassic Park with much worse, you know, CGI. Hacks Season 4. This is one of my... I got screeners for the whole season and watched the whole season, reviewed it, and now it's one of the reviews that is on Rotten Tomatoes. And I really enjoyed it. I think that, you know, this twist at the end of the last season, the cliffhanger was so great and set up a whole new dynamic for Ava and Deborah. And this season has so much fun with that new dynamic, where the power dynamic has kind of shifted and flipped on its head. You know, I can't believe in Season 4 they've still managed to keep finding new ways to have Ava and Deborah fall out and make up again. Like, that's happened in 4 seasons now, but they find a way to surprise you with it. They find a way to do it in a way that feels fresh. But yeah, the season was fantastic. I gave it 10 out of 10 and contributed to its very impressive Rotten Tomatoes score. If you haven't seen Hacks and you're like a comedy person, this is like the best show about comedy. Boxcar Bertha. This was one of Scorsese's earliest films, one of the only Scorsese films I hadn't seen, and it wasn't very good. It's mainly famous for it. He made this one as like a director for hire, as like a very kind of formulaic, straightforward exploitation-y gangster film. And I think it was John Cassavetes said to Scorsese, "You've just spent a year of your life making a piece of shit." And that was what pushed him to make Mean Streets, to really do something personal. And so Mean Streets isn't his first film, but it feels like his first film. It feels like the first one that tells us who Marty could be, what he could do. And Boxcar Bertha really doesn't take advantage of that at all. It really is just, he does a fine job with it. You know, it's a good movie, it's well crafted, but anyone could have made it. Whereas only he could have made Goodfellas, only he could have made Taxi Driver or Raging Bull. So we have this to thank for the Scorsese we know today, but it is not made by the Scorsese we know today. Needful Things. I'd never seen Needful Things. Obviously I've seen the parodies and like the one in Rick and Morty, and it's a great premise, but I thought it was terrible. I hated this movie. I really did not enjoy watching it at all. It's got this juicy premise, and the movie itself is boring. It has no tension. It's not exciting in any way. It's just bad. Paddington in Peru. I missed this one in cinemas, but it came up on Netflix, and I'm a huge fan of Paddington 1 and 2, as everyone is. They're wonderful. They're like perfect movies, and this one isn't perfect. It's a lot of fun, and the character of Paddington is still very lovable, and there's some laughs in it. Olivia Colman was really funny in this, and it was kind of a neat idea to flip the fish out of water thing, where it's not a bear from Peru is in London, now it's a bunch of Londoners are in the Peruvian jungle. But it just was missing that Paul King magic. Paul King directed Paddington 1 and 2 and then left the third one to make Wonka, and I think he wrote this one, or he worked on the story, or he produced it or something, but he didn't direct it, and it's just missing his touch that would make it a masterpiece. Because there is a really sweet message in it of nature versus nurture, and how, you know, Paddington goes to Peru and he's among other bears, and he feels like his home is back in London. He feels like his family are the Browns, and there's a really sweet message in there of who your family really are. But I don't know, I didn't love it as much as 1 and 2. And there's a cameo, there's a callback in the credits of Paddington in Peru to Paddington 2, which I won't spoil what it is, but it just arrives as this reminder of just how much better Paddington 2 was, and that's holding it to a ridiculously high standard. But I don't know, it just didn't live up to the standard that was set by 1 and 2, even though it's still a lot of fun. The Cocoanuts, this was one of the Marx Brothers movies, and I've seen a bunch of their movies now. I don't get the Marx Brothers. I mean, I get it, but it probably was very groundbreaking at the time, because these movies are from like the 20s and the 30s, but I just watch it now and I just see like the you know, Groucho will say like a quip, and it's just like a really formulaic joke. It's like the kind of setup and punchline, it's probably all been copied from him. He probably created the formula, but I watch it now with a modern sensibility, and I just I can't get into it. I can't find it as hilarious as other people seem to, but I keep giving them a chance. I keep watching the films thinking this will be the one. And the Cocoanuts, you know, I still don't get the Marx Brothers, but I loved the musical performances, and I loved the dance choreography. You know, it's a great musical. It's got a lot of great musical elements, even if I didn't love the comedic elements. The White Lotus season 3. White Lotus season 3 ended, and finally explained what the hell went on with that massacre with all the gunfire. And it was a very thrilling, very nail-biting, exciting finale. And I thought it was like the main character who ends up dead. It was really heartbreaking, and it seemed to fit in with the trend of every season. The character you love the most is the one who gets killed, or, you know, one of the fan favorites is the one who gets killed. And if you go back, there had been so much foreshadowing for it. I kind of feel like it was the weakest season of the show so far. You know, it's still very captivating television. It's still better than most of the other shows on the air. But it was the slowest season because it has the biggest episode count so far, but it didn't necessarily have more story to tell than the previous seasons. Like, the first episode sets up Jason Isaacs is in a lot of trouble. He's done some embezzlement or some sort of financial blue-collar crime, and his assets are getting all fucked up back home, and he might come home to being poor, he might come home to being in jail. But then he just spent the next few episodes worrying about it. All he did was lie around being anxious, you know, and having visions of murdering his family. There was no actual movement on his story until the finale. And then I did get very tense, and I was worried he was about to kill his whole family. But it just kind of felt like the middle of the season spent a bit too much time treading water. You know, the action-packed finale was very exciting and cool, but kind of feel like the season didn't necessarily earn that payoff, you know, and there wasn't very much aftermath of it. Like, everyone just goes home as normal, even though they'd be traumatized. I mean, even Jacqueline and their whole group were literally there when the shooting started, but they're going home like everything's normal on the next boat, you know? And I felt like maybe Lachlan should have died. I feel like that would have been more poetic, that he was the only one who felt like I can live without my material possessions, and he was the one that Tim was going to spare when he was going to poison everyone. If he had actually died, that would have been, I think, a great ending to their story, the perfect, tragic, poetic ending. So it kind of chickened out by bringing him back to life. But overall, you know, I really enjoyed the season. I don't mean to shit on it too much, because I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed following it week to week. I got really excited for each new episode, and I think it did a really good job of digging into the themes of spirituality and religion and attachment to material things. So, you know, I'm just nitpicking. Yellowjackets season 3. This is another one. It's the weakest season of the show so far. Season 1 was so amazing, and then season 2 was still great, but it was where's this going? Now it's really like, where is this going? And, you know, in the adult timeline, the present day timeline, they keep killing people off. And it's got to the point, Misty is really the only adult character I still give a shit about. Shauna's gotten so unlikable and for no reason, and all the other good ones are dead. So, but the season 3 finale did set up an intriguing storyline that's going to start to connect shit together. So, you know, I'll keep watching it. Daredevil Born Again. I did a video about this, so I don't need to go too much into it, but I really liked the St. Patrick's Day bank heist episode with Kamala Khan's dad. That was just a great little standalone episode, and the finale was a little disappointing because it doesn't have the showdown it built up to, but it's gonna get there. I mean, we're getting season 2 next year, and I love this idea of Daredevil building an army. Like, who's gonna be in the army? We're gonna get some MCU cameos. Is he gonna put the Defenders back together? Or are we gonna see? Well, we are gonna see Jessica Jones. I think it's at least been rumored that Kristen Ritter is around where they're filming season 2. But that would be cool. Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, and I could take or leave Iron Fist, to be honest. honest, but you know, it's up a very exciting season 2. I'm very excited to see where it goes. Drop. I did a review of this, so I don't need to. You can just watch the review if you want to. But I really enjoyed it. It's a really exciting thriller. You know, really fun kind of modern twist on a kind of the Hitchcockian thriller format. I thought Christopher Landon did a great job directing it, and Megan Fahey's fantastic in the lead role, and you know, keeps you guessing. It's a lot of fun. And then in the third act, it gets a little bit crazy. You know, it gets a bit Die Hard, but that was still a lot of fun. And it's satisfying to see, you know, she has so much agency. She doesn't just call the police and get them to handle it. She's like, I'm gonna do this shit. I'm gonna save my son. Happy Death Day. After I watched Drop, I was reminded how much I love Christopher Landon as a director and his work, and Happy Death Day was on Netflix, so I gave that a rewatch. Really fun premise. It's like Groundhog Day meets Scream, or, you know, it's a slasher version of Groundhog Day with this time loop, reliving the same day over and over again, but she gets murdered by a baby mask killer every day. Really, really fun. And Jessica Roth is wonderful in the lead role, and it's this interesting, it's like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. She becomes a better person over the course of the story. She actually like reckons with her flaws and her mistakes, and kind of uses the fact she's reliving the same day over and over again to get her shit together, and it's kind of cool to see amidst this fun, bloody horror film. The Rehearsal season 2. This is another one. I got screeners. I've seen the whole thing. I won't spoil it, but I'm not allowed to spoil it. HBO will kill me. But this is another one I gave 10 out of 10. I'm gonna have to start doing some negative reviews, because I'm gonna look like the biggest pushover on Rotten Tomatoes. It just has a really low bar. But Hack season 4 was a masterpiece, and The Rehearsal season 2 was a masterpiece. This is not my fault. I was sent 2 masterpieces back to back. But it's just another just mind-blowing experiment of television. You know, where this time around Nathan Fielder is going after aviation safety, and he's made this correlation between a lot of aviation disasters and plane crashes, where it's a lack of communication between the pilot and the co-pilot, or the captain and the first officer, is the reason why there's so many plane crashes. Or, you know, the first officer is afraid to speak up to the captain, or if they do, the captain's like, fuck you, I'm the captain, you know, how dare you talk back to me, and they crash the plane. So he's coming up with this rehearsal style, you know, like a scripted role play that will make it easier for the communication between the pilot and co-pilot. And it sounds insane when he first proposes it, but it actually turns out it kind of works, and it actually turns out it's kind of a good idea. And but yeah, I won't spoil anything, but it gets really crazy, it gets really surreal, and the finale kind of pulls back and shows you that like Nathan's been playing a much bigger game the whole time, and it's fantastic. I loved it. You know, totally different from season 1, but just as great. Drop. I rewatched Drop. I went with my dad and my sister a couple of days later, and it was cool to watch a second. It's the kind of movie you need to watch a second time, because you go back and you look at all the breadcrumbs you missed, or all the clues you missed, and that were foreshadowing what the twist was. And it becomes like a whole new experience, because you're going in with all the information, with all the knowledge. So that was a lot of fun. Black Mirror season 7. I did a little short about this, where I very quickly, very briefly ranked every episode. I thought this season was great. It was kind of a return to form after a couple of hit and miss seasons. I mean, this one still is quite hit and miss. The Throng episode with Peter Capaldi I didn't love. I felt like the framing device took away all the tension, you know? Like if it was just set in the past and you just saw him kill someone, it would just come as much more of a surprise than just, like, him killing his friend was the big twist. That was the big surprise of the story. And they give it away up front. And you know he's going to live to old age. He's going to live to Peter Capaldi's age. So it just took away all the tension, and the fact that, like, it's about cruelty to AI. Like, fuck AI. Who gives a shit? It's not real. And I thought the sequel to USS Callister, you know, was really fun. There was a lot of good stuff in there, but I don't know if it was necessary to do a sequel, but yeah, it was good. And Hotel Reverie, as much as I love the recreation of old-timey movies, old-timey black and white romance movies, it was very similar to San Junipero, I thought, which was, you know, it was kind of derivative. But the other 3 I thought were like absolute bangers, absolute old-timers that I was swept up in, went along for the ride. The gaslighting one with, I think it was Verity Green was the character's name. That was great. That reminded me of like Carrie, and like it just was this really great sci-fi commentary on gaslighting. And the Common People episode with Chris O'Dowd and Rashida Jones, I just loved it was such a perfect biting satire of subscription services, and how, you know, they raise the prices and lower the quality, and how just every time a new thing would happen, like she just starts like spouting ads. I thought it was like, I really got a kick out of it. And Eulogy with Paul Giamatti was a masterpiece. That was like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind through the lens of Black Mirror. So yeah, that was a fantastic season overall. I watched the whole thing in one sitting. I really loved it, apart from a couple of, not so great episodes. I thought it was fantastic. The Last of Us season 2. I had a screener of episode 1, and then HBO said they weren't doing screeners for the rest of it. And then after episode 2, I suddenly got screeners for 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I don't know what's going on, but now I have all the episodes up to the last one, but I don't want to watch them all. I was tempted to just binge watch them all, but either way, I'm gonna have to wait until the finale's on in like a month's time. So I want to give it time to breathe. I don't want to just bang them all out. So I'm still gonna take my time and only watch one per week, but I'm really enjoying the season so far. I mean, a couple of huge changes to the game and to the timeline, or how much information we get up front kind of thing. But I think they've still preserved all the most important surprises, and they've still, every big twist so far, not wanting to spoil anything, but all the big reveals and the big twists have landed the way they're supposed to land, I think, with TV audiences. And the acting's been incredible. Obviously, Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey I loved in season 1 and continue to be great here. But all the newcomers, Caitlin Dever is perfect as Abby. I don't care that she doesn't have huge muscles. She's perfect for that character. She captures exactly, her rage and her grief and her badassness, but her also like her vulnerability that she keeps behind a mask of anger. And Isabella Merced is perfect as Dina. She's every bit as lovable as she is in the game, and young Mazzino as Jesse is just as lovable as the game as well. And I'm loving, Gabriel Luna and Rutina Wesley are getting bigger roles this season as Tommy and Maria, and I'm loving their versions of those characters. They're almost exactly like they are in the game, and what the stuff that they bring to it that is unique to them is a great way to, they make the characters their own, and they without losing their essence, without losing who they are. I can't wait to see where it goes. I'm loving how they're adapting it so far, because it's a totally new experience. It's not just the game but filmed in live action. They're making huge changes, taking really big swings, and they've mostly worked. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm not just in season 2, but into 3 and possibly 4 as they tackle this enormous story. Navajo Joe. There's another spaghetti western I talked about in the spaghetti western video, and I say in the video, it's aged poorly in that it casts Burt Reynolds as a Native American character and darkens his skin with makeup, which is so not okay and so not cool, by today's standards. But the story has aged so well. The story has aged perfectly. It basically is like Tarantino was inspired to do a movie where an American slave gets revenge against the white slavers by Navajo Joe, because it's the story of a Native American getting ruthless revenge against the white settlers who slaughtered his tribe. And it so goes against what the Western genre's idea of native people was at the time, which was to show them as savages, as violent and evil, and just was so inaccurate and so damaging. And Navajo Joe goes, fuck that, it was the other way around. The white people who slaughtered them were the savages. And it's really satisfying to see him get that revenge. Cowboy Bebop the movie. I thought I was done with Cowboy Bebop. I finished the show and I thought that was it, but found out there's this movie adaptation, which I think takes place between the second to last episode and the last episode, because the last episode is such a definitive ending and such a perfect ending. You couldn't really do a movie set after that, or if you did, you would kind of have to undo how perfect the ending was. But my DVD of it, when I watched the show on Netflix, it was dubbed in English, so I only know those characters from their English voices. But the DVD wasn't dubbed, so I got to hear the original Japanese actors, and it was great. It plays like a supersized episode. It's just like as much fun and as visually stunning and as powerful as an episode would be, but it's like 2 hours long. The only thing is, everyone besides Spike is relegated to a supporting role. You'd think with a movie of this size, you'd be able to give everyone a big role in their own arc. You'd have Jet and Faye, and everyone would get their own story, but it really is just Spike's story, and then everyone else has a smaller role. But I was really, really glad to get, I thought, I had rationed out the episodes because I didn't want to, once it was over, but it turns out it wasn't over because there's this other 2-hour episode to watch, so that was a nice surprise. Sisu. This was awesome. I really wanted to watch it when it came out. I could never find any screenings for it when it came out 2 or 3 years ago. It finally popped up on Netflix this month, and it essentially is like John Wick meets Inglourious Bastards. It's like a John Wick character, a legendary, notorious killer, unstoppable killing machine in Nazi-occupied Europe, and this group of Nazis fuck him over, so he fucks them over, he kills them all, and it's so much fun to see and so gruesomely satisfying, sort of like this in the same way as Navajo Joe, where you get to just see some of history's worst monsters get their comeuppance. Really, really violent and really gruesome and just so much fun. Sinners. This is one of the movies of the year. This is like, I think it would definitely end up on my top 10 the end of the year, because it's, what an experience, what a movie, what a cinematic delight this was, and what a visionary Ryan Coogler is, and what an actor Michael B. Jordan is. It kind of reminded me of Everything Everywhere All at Once, in that it juggles so many different genres. It's a vampire movie, and it's a musical, it's an action movie, it's a gun-toting action thriller, it's a gangster movie, it's an old-timey, fedoras and Tommy guns gangster movie, and it's just a straightforward historical drama about the Jim Crow era, and it balances all those things masterfully. It pulls them all off spectacularly, and if it had just focused on any one of those things, it would still be a great movie. But the fact that it does them all at the same time and does them all so well, and the different styles complement each other somehow, is kind of mind-blowing. And it's, I'm really glad to see it's been so successful. It's been so successful critically and at the box office. It's just great to see an original movie get a win like this, and such an original movie and such a great movie. You love to see it. Warfare, another great movie. This was another mind-blowing cinematic experience. It's real life. It's Ray Mendoza, the co-director and co-writer with Alex Garland, is a veteran of the Iraq War, and this is a reenactment of a terrifying day he had during the war. And he's been in interviews, he's been hesitant to call it realistic. He's been hesitant to call it, a direct translation of what happened, because he says it's just based on memory. It's just based on how he remembers it, and how he remembers it could be different from how everyone else remembered it, or what everyone else's experience, every other people who've fought in wars, what their experience is. But I mean, I've never been to war. I hope I never have to, although we live in very precarious times. But it felt pretty damn authentic to me. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about, but it felt pretty goddamn realistic. And I said this in the review in my video about it, but I went with my dad, and after it was over, my dad said, I'm gonna have PTSD just from watching that. And that kind of like, the reason I put in the review is that's the perfect way to sum it up. Is like it's kind of traumatic even just to watch the movie version. It's so intense, it's so intensely, I mean, again, I can't really say realistic because I don't know what realistic looks like, because I never was in a war zone, but the acting felt so naturalistic. Joseph Quinn's screams of pain as he's dragged along with mangled legs, you felt his pain. It felt so fucking real. I don't know, I don't know how to say it. It felt real, even though I don't know what real would look like. But if you're a fan of war movies, you need to check this one out. This is like an even less sensationalist and even less Hollywoody version of Black Hawk Down. Veep. After I finished The Wire, I rewatched Veep, and it was kind of comforting to see this Obama-era show about US politics that it kind of just shows the American government has always been in chaos, is weirdly comforting in these times. But it's distinctively in two parts. It's the first 4 seasons. Armando Iannucci was the showrunner, and it's so realistic. It's like an American version of The Thick of It, where it could be a documentary. It could be a fly-on-the-wall documentary filmed in the halls of the West Wing. And then in season 5, 6, 7, David Mandel took over as showrunner, and it became a lot more sitcom-y. The dialogue is very sitcom-y. It's very set up punchline, and the storyline stopped being about policy and stopped being satirical and started just being like personal conflict for the characters. It's like Selena's running mate announces his love for her, and it's all this stuff that just feels very of the sitcom and not of the real world. So it's like watching a totally different show. Still really funny though, and still, there's a lot of stuff in those final seasons that was introduced that the first 4 seasons don't have that was really funny. Like having Jonah Ryan running for office, having Jonah Ryan, be this kind of Trump stand-in who's just a horrible person saying horrible things, but a huge chunk of the voting population say he's saying it as it is. He's calling it like it is. And his Uncle Jeff, played by Peter McNichol, is hilarious. He's an awful person. He's so mean, but he's fucking hilarious. Every time he shows up on screen, I'm so excited because it's going to be a huge laugh, and he can really like put Jonah in his place. Even though he's half the size of Jonah, he can belittle Jonah like no one else. So there's still a lot to enjoy in those final seasons, but it never reached the heights of greatness, of realism and satire that is the first 4 seasons with Armando Iannucci. Sting. This is a horror film, I think came out last year, and I was really hesitant to watch it because I have a terrible fear of spiders. I have terrible arachnophobia. If I even see a tiny little spider in my house, I freak out. So I was reluctant to watch this movie where a spider grows to like the size of a horse, But I don't know, in the spirit of facing one's own fears, I gave it a go, and I just found it kind of disappointing. Like, it was really creepy at first to see the spider, and, you know, the opening credits, there's a shot of the spider climbing through a dollhouse. It's really creepy because it's obviously based on the scale of the dollhouse. It looks massive, and it kind of sets up how big it's going to get. But eventually, even I wasn't scared by this fucking thing. It's like, I don't know, it just didn't really work. Like, it sets up this campy B-movie thing where the spider is from a meteor that fell from space, you know, so it's almost like an Ed Wood film. But then it wants to set up this serious drama of the conflict between stepdad and stepdaughter. And that kind of didn't work at all, because that's like melodrama mixed into this ridiculous B-movie about a giant spider. It just didn't work, really. And you have to be a really bad filmmaker to make a spider monster that even I'm not fucking scared of, because I am petrified of anything with 8 legs. So Ponyo is one of the only Studio Ghibli movies I hadn't seen. I gave it a watch, and you know, it's not quite as enchanting as other Ghibli movies. It looks very different from their usual visual style, a bit more abstract and impressionistic, and, you know, but it's still gorgeous. You know, it's still the same studio producing the same gorgeous visuals, and it's still a very sweet, uplifting fairy tale. And Ponyo's obsession with ham is such a silly little thing, such a silly little running gag, but I really got a kick out of it every time she mentioned ham. She loved it, because where did that even come from? But yeah, I don't think it's so. If I was going to rank the Ghibli movies, or the ones I've seen, where like Spirited Away would be the tippy top, this one would probably be near the bottom, and not because it's bad, but because it's great, but it's just not quite as great as Kiki's Delivery Service or My Neighbor Totoro or some of their other movies that are much more mind-blowing and much more resonant. Once Upon a Time in the West, another spaghetti western I watched for the spaghetti western video, and this was, I talk about this in the video, but this was the swan song for the spaghetti western. It wasn't quite the last one, but it was the last great one, and it was the pinnacle of that style, and it was where Italian westerns, Italian imitations of American westerns came back to America. It was co-produced with Paramount. It was shot partly in America, and kind of brought the whole experiment full circle. And it's just a great little revenge story of, you know, Charles Bronson trying to track down Henry Fonda, and you find out why he wants revenge, and suddenly you're like, Henry Fonda's character of Frank is already so sadistic and so evil at that point, and you realize he's even more evil than you thought, and that Charles Bronson is completely in the right in wanting revenge. Just a beautiful cinematic achievement. Pets. There's a documentary on Disney Plus directed by Bryce Dallas Howard about the emotional connection between people and their pets. And then kind of a companion piece, she did a documentary called Dads, about the relationship between people and their dads, and I haven't seen that one. But this movie was fucking adorable. It was like, it's just, you know, she interviews a bunch of people, a bunch of animal lovers about their pets, and in some cases it's like adults who rescue animals who are in desperate need of help, and gives them a home and gives them the love they need, and really inspiring to see. And she interviews a bunch of little kids about their relationship with their pets, and you know, you see a lot of videos of people with their pets, and it's just really, really sweet. It really like hit me in the feels. It was really uplifting, and, you know, it's a nice short. It's only like an hour and 20 minutes, and it's just a really nice watch. Havoc. There's the new Tom Hardy action film on Netflix, directed by Gareth Evans of The Raid fame, and it's been in the works for years. They started making this, I think they wrapped this film in 2021, and it's been years of, you know, reshoots and delays and all kinds of problems, and I was really hoping it would be a new The Raid. I was really hoping it would be like a nice substitute for The Raid 3, and it's not. It's not great. It's not a masterpiece like The Raid 1 and 2 are. It's good. It's a really good action film. It's a really solid action film. The action particularly is fantastic. I mean, the fight scenes and the gun fights, they're every bit as thrilling and every bit as intense as the ones in The Raid, but the stuff in between, the plot, the noir plot, is really, really, really drags it down. It's really boring and predictable and formulaic, and that really let it down. Silicon Valley. When I finished Veep, started rewatching a different HBO comedy that I love, Silicon Valley, which I'm only on season 2 so far, but I've seen the show all the way through probably 3 or 4 times now, and it never gets old. I love this ensemble. I love these characters, and I love, you know, it's always raising the stakes. The characters can never ever get complacent and relax. Every time it seems like they've hit some kind of success, there's another obstacle around the corner. There's every single time it seems like they're in the clear, they get fucked over again. And that probably is an accurate representation of the cutthroat tech industry, and but it just makes for really compelling storytelling, because they're like the Pied Piper guys are like the perfect underdogs. They've got a really good product, they're really talented and really good at what they do, and yet they can't catch catch a break. They can't have the success they deserve because they're in this ruthless business environment surrounded by hungry wolves, you know? And it's just hilarious. It's, you know, Mike Judge is at the helm, so you know it's going to be hilarious, and it's just a really, really funny show. Like, even on now, like my 4th or 5th watch, I think it is now, there are some episodes that are making me laugh so hard it hurts. And that's impressive, you know? There are most shows that don't do that on the first watch. So there you have everything I watched in April. A lot of great TV's been on. Some really great movies have been out. Sinners and Warfare, and I enjoyed Minecraft, perhaps due to a minor cerebral event. And of course, there's been some not so great, not as impressive stuff, you know, Havoc and Death of a Unicorn. But some really good stuff, as my 10 out of 10 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes would suggest. You know, keep an eye out on there and check out my shit. And let me know what you've all been watching if you've got any recommendations. And I will speak to you next month. Speak to you at the end of May. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked the video. Remember to like and subscribe and click on the little bell. And also seize the day and call your mom and be kind to yourself.